Hello and welcome to the Tyre Straights Podcast, the motorsport podcast that is hosted by two morons. I am moron number one, Scobbert, and I am joined by my co-host, moron number two,
Doots.
Yes, and we are we're a motorsports podcast which does get into the motorsports while remaining relatively unserious.
Indeed. And as such, there's no point in us waffling too much longer. Before we get into the main episode, though, it would be greatly appreciated if you could follow us on the platforms that these podcast episodes are posted on, so Spotify and YouTube, and follow us on Instagram for more updates and news and other assorted things.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Now, yes, before we get into the race review, having just obviously had the Australian Grand Prix, the first round of the 2026 Formula One World Championship, just a little bit of news to get through. Very, very light here, but it's mostly regarding the current geopolitical state of the world with everything going on in the Middle East. So, yes. If you want to take the lead on this one, Dootson.
Yeah, it's a very brief thing just before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the podcast. Is
Fantastic.
That we discussed last week that there's the conflict in the Middle East going on. We're not going to get into the actual politics, that side of things, because we are two idiots who deal with motorsport. It is not our place to speak on that.
No.
But it was looking like it's going to lead to the cancellation of the Bahrain and Saudi Grand Prix, which are scheduled to happen next month, which it mainly comes from something I'll mention slightly later in the video. But there's been strikes in the countries, and as such, it's currently deemed unsafe, and that they're not going to be able to sort out a replacement track in time, just due to how short notice it is. But there is the possibility that it could be pushed to later in the year. But it seems much more likely that they're just going to cut their losses and cancel the full thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's technically possible that it could be pushed later in the year, because obviously we have the second Middle Eastern leg with Qatar and Abu Dhabi towards the end of the year. But I'm just not sure where the two races would slot in. But I think it's a shame, because I quite like the Bahrain circuit, and it'd be a shame that we can't run there. But obviously we'll see how obviously things pan out that are outside of F1 management's control over the next month. So, yes, but with that out of the way, it's time to move things along to the Australian Grand Prix. So
race review.
Exactly, yes. So let's just let's start from the beginning. Obviously, ignoring the practice sessions, but qualifying. What do we think of qualifying?
That's what I was going to ask. Is how are you feeling after this week? What are our thoughts?
I thought it was I thought it was kind of surprising, actually. Yeah, obviously we see the Mercedes where it is obviously touted to be after everything, but I must say I was, my standout of the Saturday was definitely Isaac Hadjar. Massively impressive. First race with Red Bull, having obviously failed to even make the grid 12 months ago when he made his debut with Racing Bulls. To come back from that and to put the car to line it up on P3 for the big race on Sunday, that's a huge step, and I think that's obviously what Red Bull needs as well, because of course they're replacing a number 2 driver, but at the same time they want a number 2 driver who can still perform. The whole point of a number 2 driver isn't just to be vassal slave to the number 1 driver. Their job is to still pick up points and keep the team moving. So yeah, I think that's a really good look for Red Bull at the moment.
Fair enough. I just want to do a quick run through for those who didn't get to watch qualifying. Pole position was George Russell, followed by his teammate Kimi Antonelli. Isaac Hadjar third, which is what Scott's just gone over. Fourth was Charles Leclerc. Fifth, Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris in sixth. Hamilton in seventh. Liam Lawson in eighth. And Arvid Lindblad on debut up to ninth. Very good from him. And Gabriel Bortoleto 10th, though he didn't technically get to do qualifying, because his car stopped in the pit lane on the way back from Q2.
Yes.
Which, what I want to talk about mainly, besides just a massive props in quali, and I will talk later in the race to Lindblad on his debut. A quali felt wrong. I did not enjoy qualifying for Australia, which is really a shame. And it's certainly something under the new regs. It didn't feel like they were proper push laps they were doing. They were too slow at the wrong points. I mean, the big one that everyone and their mother has talked about is the end, like going into turn 9.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the one that I've seen a lot of discourse over online.
Yeah. Partway through that straight section, they're having to slow down for what is called super clipping, which I don't think it should be called super clipping because it is not a good thing. It is essentially
there is nothing super
the car's
about
running
it.
out of battery. It has to like recharge so that it doesn't drain it completely.
Yeah.
And it means that partway through that what is like has been for like the last 3-4 years a really high speed section, like along the back of the circuit, and it's been brilliant viewing to watch. They now have to slow down partway through during qualifying, and it just doesn't have anywhere near as much the spectacle. It's not nice to watch.
And there'll be obviously more about the super clipping to hear later on when we get into the race as well. But just to close things out on qualifying, I would like to also say I was very, very impressed by the show from the Racing Bulls. Obviously, we're quite used to them being quite far back, as a backmarker team. But they've absolutely, smashed it out of the park, lining up 8th and 9th on the grid. Obviously, with one of their racers being a debutant as well. So, yeah, very solid performance from the Racing Bulls. And, yeah, that's...
Indeed. I remember saying past couple of episodes... or at least in one of the past episodes, saying that I think VCAR were going to be considerably worse than they were last year.
And it seems that we were both wrong.
Out of the gates, they've come up still being one of the top of the midfield, or at least in the conversation for top of the midfield.
In this particular race, they were best of the rest. So I'm
not in the
not the race, in the qualifying. Just touching on qualifying. Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, in finishing out on the qualifying thoughts. Yeah, Racing Bulls being best of the rest was a very impressive feat for this this first race in these new regulations. But anyway, onto the race itself. Just for those who obviously didn't see it, much like qualifying, we'll just quickly round out the top 10. George Russell takes his first win, well, what is likely to be a first win of the season, followed by probably many more, with Kimi Antonelli coming in second to make it the first Mercedes 1-2 in quite some time. In fact, it's the first Mercedes 1-2 without Lewis Hamilton since, I think it was 1955. I'm completely waffling, but I saw that statistic online, which is, that's massive. But anyway, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, the Ferrari squad, come in 3rd and 4th. Then the reigning world champion Lando Norris in 5th, followed by Max Verstappen after a great recovery drive from the back. And then Oliver Behrman, and then Arvid Lindblad, and then Gabriel Bortoleto and Pierre Gasly round out the top 10.
Indeed. And I want to just quickly start with the start of the race.
Yes.
And talk about the beginning. Because first start the season, and we got to see the monstrous start from Ferrari.
Yes.
Absolute incredible launch off the line that led Leclerc to take the lead of the race from the first corner.
I was going to say, but not even take the lead, from 4th place as well on the start.
From 4th take the lead.
He absolutely rocketed through.
There's also the factor to judge that the lights went out really quickly, insanely quickly.
Yeah. For
the main race. That was, I have no idea who does the actual lights of the timing or whatever, but it basically, as soon as there were 5 lights up, it instantly went out, which definitely caught some people off and led to some slightly unfavourable starts up and down the grid.
Yes. Who was it that was slow on the start? Because I saw Franco Colapinto have to...
that was Lawson.
That was Lawson. I thought it was Lawson, I was going to say.
I'm pretty sure that was Lawson who, was basically not moving, and Colapinto had to dive around the inside of
very good
his
save.
car to avoid.
Fantastic
Incredibly
save, though.
good save.
Yeah, fantastic save.
Another really good part of this start was Arvid Lindblad, who launched up to. I'm pretty sure he was fourth at one point, right at the start. He'd overtaken, or maybe even third, but he'd taken Russell, Antonelli, and Hadjar.
Yeah, and that's absolutely...
It was a phenomenal start.
That's a phenomenal start. And obviously, he finished in 8th, which is very, very strong. Obviously, not only is he a rookie, making his debut race, he also obviously beat his teammate, who was obviously had more than a full season on the grid now, at least. There's no excuse there now. So yeah, Arvid Lindblad, very impressive. But just one more person I want to talk about on the start, just to inject a little bit of hope into those that are sort of dwindling like myself. But Fernando Alonso, starting from P17, managed to make it to P10, which does seem to suggest that the Aston Martin may have something in it. It's just not there yet, which is obviously, it's the hope, but it's too early to tell on that. But definitely an incredible race start from Fernando Alonso. Obviously, he was further back, so he didn't really see that. But yeah, fantastic start from him. It was like watching him back in 2012 with the race starts he used to get. So yeah. Let's hope that Aston Martin can complete a race next time.
I do also want to mention that while we talk about the race start, let's talk about the people who didn't. Those being Nico Hulkenberg, who I believe it was a technical issue with his car, something along the lines of when he went for his outlap, they couldn't actually locate his car.
What? His telemetry was not working.
Yes.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but I do not take my word as gospel on that.
I knew he didn't start, but yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing is, they took him into the garage to try and fix him and get him sent out for pit lane, a pit lane start, but they couldn't. But the bigger one,
absolutely, I was
was
going to
Oscar
say
Piastri, who spun on the way to the grid, not even the outlap, not even the race start. On the way to the grid, he spun and hit the wall.
Yeah, completely destroying the front of his car as well.
Which is... I'm not even sure if I'd say it's a rookie mistake. That's
one thing I've seen that I just wanted to mention on this is I'm not, I wasn't able to watch the race because I had work rather late, so I was asleep at the time. But what I've seen post everything that happened was it's another critique with the current regulation cars, where this is just what I've heard, so it may be completely wrong, and that's probably why it's a very, kind of explanation. But apparently these new cars, the gears, some of them can be a bit clunky and deliver a massive amount of torque. That's why apparently we saw Max Verstappen have a massive snap and spin out in qualifying with just losing the rear completely, because suddenly the rear wheels just gave him a load of torque and span out. But apparently people are saying it's the same for Piastri and the McLaren, which, I don't know if I believe that necessarily, because it does look like it was just a mistake, and quite a stupid one at that. But apparently that could be a reason, so just keep that in mind as well.
That's fair. I think it's definitely something that could very easily be a technical fault, or could be Piastri himself, but there's no point really pointing at one or the other.
What's
it's first
done
race
is
of the
done.
Season. Yeah, it's what's done is done. First race of the season, it's new regulations, still getting used to the car most likely, so it's not the end of the world, and there's still plenty of races to make up for those points lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that we've gone over the start, let's talk about the actual race itself. And just to get the question started, is the racing better than expected? The actual wheel-to-wheel racing. What are your thoughts on that?
I've seen positives and negatives about it, and I'll get to my personal view. But basically, I think what I saw online, in terms of the official statistic, was it was somewhere over 120 different position swaps over the course of the race, which is obviously huge. That's a lot of overtaking going on, and that on paper that sounds very good for the racing, for the quality of racing, for the for the spectacle that we were witnessing when watching. But when you get down into the nitty-gritty, and this is where I was going to bring up the super clipping again, a lot of the reasons for the overtakes were simply one driver would overtake the other. We saw this with George Russell and Charles Leclerc's battle. There was a lot of back and forth, and it was through no fault of their own either. One driver would overtake the other, and then they'd get to a point such as going into turn 9, where the battery would run out, and then the other driver behind them would then pass them again, and then it would just be vice versa, back and forth. And obviously, that's caused a lot of people to be quite unhappy. And that's not obviously, not all 120 overtakes were due to this. There were obviously there was some good racing. I think there have been some positives, but just with the super clipping being a huge problem, I do think it shines a very negative light on the regulations, at least for this first race of the season. So when you do look at how many overtakes there were and sort of what people might be saying about the quality of the racing, do just take it with a pinch of salt. And I think that might be the trend for the next few races, unless something is obviously done going forwards. But yeah, I'm a little bit more cynical myself. That's my personal view. But obviously, like I say, not all of the overtakes were just due to the super clipping issue. There were some good overtakes, and it was actually quite close at certain points. So I think there was definitely more back and forth, but in this instance, I think it was for better and for worse. So yeah, that's my point of view. What do you think, though?
I'm kind of very mixed on it as well. From like a direct kind of viewing of it, the racing was quite enjoyable, but there was a good chunk of it that was essentially, start the lap, get to the next like overtake zone, burn battery to get past, hold them into the corner, charge up a little bit, and then the other person passes back. Yeah. Obviously, that didn't happen as much because, like, when the actual difference in car ability came in. But for example, at the beginning between Leclerc and Russell, that was good fighting. That was very enjoyable. That
was quite good. That was one of the better points in the race.
Yeah, there was definitely an argument to be made that it's basically just playing, like, passing the lead back and forth with just battery. It's just one uses battery to burn into the lead, the other then charges and then burns battery to get into the lead. But it was still enjoyable watching them battle and watching them try and block each other in corners and stuff like that. It was nice to watch. And I mean, like, the battle between Arvid Lindblad and Ollie Behrman midway through, I've watched like some of the races last year and in 2023 were considerably worse to watch than just that like couple lap fight.
Yeah.
Like, I can think of races in the last couple of years that have had less action than just that one that selection of laps.
But
which is promising.
It's definitely promising, but the other thing that I will just add as one last negative from me, not to be a Debbie Downer, of course, but with more than half of the field being lapped by just the front 6 drivers as well, it's obviously pretty not good. The disparity in the pace after obviously the front sort of get away, and obviously everyone gets locked into their battles and sort of settles in for the race. That will obviously want addressing. Otherwise, that could become a bit of a problem very quickly.
Definitely, but I think that comes with the start of any regulation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I say, I'm more cynical about this particular race rather than obviously everything. I hope obviously stuff will be done over the course of the season, like it has done obviously with 2022 when we had obviously the huge issue with the porpoising in the cars. That was obviously dealt with, but those sort of technical regulations can be changed to make those changes necessary to better the sport. So obviously I'm hoping that they will come in, but yeah, like I say, just in terms of this particular race, that's not a great look. But like you say, it is what will happen at the start of any set of regulations.
It's just at the start of any set of regulations, someone has done it better than everyone else, no matter what. Like, it's nearly always the case.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be a greater gap. Because, for example, if you look from most recent regulations, 2022 to 2025, the gaps in qualifying and the gaps in race pace got closer and closer and closer the further through the regulations it went.
Absolutely.
Because everyone got more used to them. So it's naturally going to happen at the start of every regulation. I mean, I do think it's quite extreme at the moment.
Yeah, that's I think why it's a big thing to point out, because even with previous sort of new regs coming in, we've never seen such a significant gap between the sort of race leaders.
That's a lie. That's a blatant lie.
What do you mean? What do you mean? When?
Do you not remember the 2014 regulations?
Oh well, yeah. All right. I'm talking in recent memory.
Okay.
With the last sort of like 3 regulation changes, including this one now.
That's fine.
It's obviously we've not seen something this big in a while. I should say, not never.
Yeah. But I do think that the 35-second gap between Ferrari and Norris is, while I wouldn't say damning, I would say it's something that could be an issue. Now, I know one of the things people have talked about is about the battery harvesting and about several of the teams not being able to harvest the battery, harvest energy for the battery well enough, which is what's causing this disparity.
Yeah.
And I'm uncertain on how they're gonna sort this realistically, because it's either you limit the harvesting from the better teams, or there's that's the only way I can feasibly that is the only way I can feasibly see it happening, is put a restriction on the amount of energy harvested to level out the field. But that just kind of feels
that's gonna obviously just be an unnecessary nerf from the from the team's point of view. That'll be
at that point you're essentially from a team standpoint. From a racing standpoint, yeah, it is making everything more equal, making everything more fair, and making the competition closer. And from a media standpoint, that's much better for them as well. But from a team standpoint, they've engineered a better car, and you're essentially what the taking bits off it, because it's like no, you can't do that well.
The teams will argue is that not the point, of having a constructors championship, is to see who's built the best car and who's going to maximize on points every weekend. That is the point. So yeah, I think it'll cause some discourse, but I don't know what form that'll take yet.
No, that is fair. Right, now moving on.
Yes.
We've talked about the racing. Now let's talk a bit about how the race went, and specifically who could have won it.
Yes.
And
this did sting.
Partway through, there were several virtual safety cars that came out. One of them was for Isaac Hadjar's
car shitting the bed.
When his engine had some kind of mechanical failure, so he put to the side.
I think it was hydraulics. And the second one being for
hydraulics.
Yeah, I think it was hydraulics. That's what I've heard. But yeah.
And the other one being when Valtteri Bottas pulled off to the side by the pit lane entry. 2 VSCs, 2 opportunities to pit and reduce time. And yet one team decided not to. So I ask, do you think that Ferrari could have won the race given better strategy?
Even just at that first VSC, before we'd had that second one and they still hadn't pitted, I just thought it's so ridiculous. Because obviously Mercedes pitted, with the Ferraris ahead, they with a good pit stop as well, it's feasible entirely that Ferrari could have obviously pitted and still retained track position, instead of just letting themselves, letting both cars. Even Hamilton himself said we should have at least one of the cars should have pitted, because they left them like sitting ducks upon the restart, and they're obviously on older tyres, and then to not do it again, it just meant that obviously the Mercedes were able to get past and get away. So, while we can debate obviously coulda, woulda, shoulda, would the Ferraris have had the ability to fight for the win had they, had they had the better tyres and had they made that pit decision? It's a shame. And honestly, for me as a Ferrari fan, as a lifelong Ferrari fan, it's honestly agonizing to see that they've started the regulations off once again with a strong car, but they're throwing away opportunities. And like I say, it can be debated for ages as to who would have won if they had pit, whether the Ferraris would have, weathered the storm, or if the Mercedes would have still fought through anyway with that pace they had. No matter what, the fact of the matter is they threw away the opportunity, and they, that opportunity then they never had following. So it's just that was painful.
It's a bit of an odd one because the main thing is we don't know how tires are really running when it comes to the racing. Like we don't know generally what it's going to do, you know, how things wear in these new regs with all the super clipping and the slowing and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it did come with the fact that the like VSCs were very early in the race. Like Hadjar went out on lap 10, I want to say, and then Bottas was only maybe like five-ish laps later.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that they didn't even try with one car is kind of a shame, because
like
there's
I
a
say,
chance
that's what Lewis even said on the team radio. He said as they passed obviously the pits and watched the Mercedes go in, he said we should have at least pitted one of the cars.
There's fair reasoning for them to not pit the first time, because to do an opposite strategy of Mercedes, but second time
they've been given a free pit stop.
Should have at least it's closer to the end of the race, so they would have had like a better chance of lasting on just one other set.
Yeah,
and two, like you've got two cars. It does not matter if you gamble with one of them, because otherwise the two of them are going to fight. So it's much better to risk a good stick one of them in for a good time. And Lewis is literally asking for it.
Yeah, and I would just like to add as well, obviously, with the finishing result we are aware of now as well, we know that the Ferraris both finished the race 35 seconds ahead of the next car. So they would have had, it wouldn't have been such a significant gamble either to have, made that pit stop, because worst case scenario, they still third and fourth. That's the bottom line. So yeah. It's just frustrating.
It's a bit dense from them to not try it, to just try and be as safe as possible. But in the procedure of doing that, they've kind of thrown away all chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Of winning.
I mean, like I say, worst case scenario, they still third and fourth anyway. So, like I say, they had such a significant gap by the end of the race to Norris in fifth that even if they had to pit again, for some reason, they'd have still come out ahead. So the gap that they had was great enough that they could have gambled, and still the result would have been the same. But yeah. A shame.
Yes, indeed. Now, let's move on to the midfield, move back from the race leads, and let's just talk about the remainder of the point scorers that weren't from top teams. We had quite a mix.
Yeah, it was actually good.
It was Ollie Behrman for Haas, Lindblad for V-Carb, Bortoletto for Audi, which points on a team debut. Very nice.
Very good, yeah.
And Gasly picking up a lowly little point in 10th for Alpine. But that is considerably better for Alpine on the whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just demonstrates what the decision to drop the that being a I've lost the word. Being a factory team. Being a factory
no
team.
No longer works team.
Exactly. To no longer be a factory team and to be a customer of Mercedes, to benefit from that powerful Mercedes power unit, they've definitely got an upward trajectory now. No matter what Renault would like, Yeah. As much as Renault tries to kill them off, they're still finding some way. It's like one of those like a 16-year-old dog with crap in its eyes. It's still hanging in there and refusing to die every time you take it to the vets and think this is time.
Yeah, I guess.
Strange analogy, but I think it makes rough sense, at least to me.
Fair enough. A bit random, but sure. Bortoletto for Audi, very good to see that they've actually kept some of the momentum that they had as Sauber.
Absolutely.
And not just fully tanked. While obviously Hulkenberg couldn't race due to issues, he qualified one below Bortoletto in 11th, so it's high chance that he would have had a decent finish as well.
So yeah, I mean it's honestly very encouraging as well, because if we think back, obviously Mercedes are now once again on top, but when they first joined the sport in 2010, they were barely hanging on as a sort of lower midfield team, or at least upper midfield on the better occasions. And then as they sort of gained ground before the 2014 regulation change, by 2013 they were winning races. So I think Audi are in a great position, better than I think I even predicted for them. So yeah, with a bit of time, I would not be surprised. Maybe not this year, but I would not be surprised if we see Audi winning races within this regulation period.
I mean, we'll just have to see. There's still time to come, but I could definitely see like a random podium from somewhere crazy.
Oh yeah, this year I think it could come. It could come.
Oh, I mean, this year or just in this regulation cycle at some point. There's definitely there's pace there, and if the engine continues to develop and they're able to keep up with the other teams, be really good to have another engine manufacturer that's at the front.
And I think that would open up obviously more opportunities for other teams as well, with another engine supplier to pick from. So yeah, it's reassuring.
I also want to quickly just talk about Behrman and Lindblad's battle.
Yes.
First off, Arvid Lindblad finishing 8th, points on debut, absolute hats off.
Brilliant.
That's fantastic from him. Brilliant race. You cannot fault the guy in the slightest. He was putting up a good fight with everyone, no matter who it was trying to pass him. He was good fight against Max, good fight against Behrman, good fight against Lando.
He had that right level of aggression, but also he had a sensible head on, you know.
Yeah, well, he managed to keep it clean.
Yeah,
which is good. There was some don't get me wrong, there were some close calls.
Yeah,
and,
there were moments.
In the battle with Behrman, certainly it got scrappy, but they both kept it clean somehow.
It was classy. It was classy driving. It was a good exhibition of aggression and sort of being on that line, being on that razor sort of edge between sort of fluidity, you know, poetry and motion, if you want to call it, and a big crash taking out 2 Formula 1 cars.
Yeah. I just very good racing, very enjoyable to watch.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's everything from the actual midfield.
If we go from the midfield,
unfortunately
now
we have to go further back from the points. Everyone else, it was kind of just a bit nothing. Williams didn't have a great weekend. Lawson and Perez fighting.
Yes, they had a mid-off.
Yeah, but at the back, not even in the pits, but 15 laps behind race leader George Russell, we had Lance Stroll, who is, I believe, the first driver in a long time to have to face the 107% rule.
Yeah.
Now, which is, I mean, you know, I will give them the slight props. 43 laps in that supposed death trap of a car is worth something. I guess. It's worth something.
I mean, considering that they were basically driving a little Tykes car, but instead of having that plastic seat in it, you had an electric chair. I think, I think Aston Martin, with that in mind, did a great job. But comparative to other Formula 1 teams at what is supposedly the top flight of motorsport, it's still abysmal.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Aston in the slight. I mean, Alonso had to retire.
Their official reason was actually to preserve components because I still don't. From what I've not, well, I was expecting from what I've heard, but from what I've not heard, I'm not aware that they've actually fixed the issues with the engine revs yet. Where previously at the Barcelona test, especially, if the engine revved above 11,000 RPM, it dropped all of its components through the fucking floor. So, I think that they're still obviously fighting with reliability, and their focus is, well, with retiring Fernando's car. It wasn't obviously anything that happened on track. The team brought him in. It was a team decision to retire the car because it was simply a case of the car was going to break.
Yeah. No, it's very fair of them to pull him in, but also a real tragedy to see that the team that was podiuming pretty much every race about 3 years back has just dropped.
I know, and think with just how much investment has gone into them as well, you know, the personnel that were brought on, obviously Adrian Newey, a lot has been sort of said about him lately, you know, whether or not he's fit as a team principal, let alone car designer, that's obviously a separate debate, but, you know, the fact of the matter is, Aston Martin has seen a huge amount of investment over the last few years, and that really should have translated to something by now. Obviously, like you say, we saw podiums, 7 out of the first 8 races of 2023, you had Alonso on the podium, which put them in a battle with Mercedes for second in the Constructors' Championship at the first at the opening stages of the season. So to go from that to where we are now even with the amount of money that's been pumped into that team, the new facility in Silverstone as well, I forgot to mention. But yeah, the amount of money that's been pumped into that team, it really, it's honestly kind of pathetic, I've got to say, because you think where they really should be right now with the amount of financial backing they've received it's kind of pitiful. And I know obviously there's reasons that are with it outside of the hands of just what money can fix, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, where they should be is at least functional. Like,
that's the bottom line. Yeah,
whether they're pacey or not, that's entirely reasonable. If the team is slow, yes, it's a fault of the team. But
at least they can finish a race.
There's always going to be a last place, no matter what. There's always going to be someone who is the slowest. But for a team to not be able to functionally finish a race, that is a disgrace.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we have talked so much about Aston.
Yeah, we've beaten it to death over like the last 3 or 4 episodes.
Definitely not going to continue on too much. So, anything else?
I might. As an Alonso fan, I'm sure I'll have plenty to say. Yeah. But no, I think
the race in particular.
I think that's everything that I had to say, at least.
No, that's fair. All right. In which case, I'm going to, before we go over our predictions that we did last week for the race, I am going to quickly go over the feeder series, being Formula 2 and Formula 3. I didn't get to watch much of these because they were at stupid times.
Neither. I was going to say, I'll leave this entirely to you because I've missed these two. Once. Normally I like watching at least the Formula 2.
Yeah, I watched them on catch up. The highlights for some of them, depending on which series. But let's start with Formula 2. The championship is now being led by Nicholas Solov from Bulgaria after a feature race win, which also, that feature race contained some of the stupidest driving from Alex Dunn, with him pulling in front of Stenshorn and basically brake checking him like into his front, he basically just pulled like straight in front and then braked for the corner without thinking about it. So slammed into the back, slammed into the front of Stenshorn, breaking the front wing and like dropping them both down. It was so stupid, and honestly, considering that like last year, by the end of last year's F2 season, like Alex Dunn already had 12 penalty points, I'm pretty sure. So, he should technically be serving a race ban, to my knowledge.
Well, I mean, we'll see how this season unfolds for him then. Jesus.
Yeah, we should. And I will just quickly mention, sprint was won by Joshua Dirksen. It's fairly standard sprint race. Swap the reverse grid threw a bit of spice into the mix, but nothing crazy. I will also mention Colton Herta, who has moved over from IndyCar with Cadillac to try and make a name in the Formula Series, and he did fine. Like, thoroughly unnoteworthy. It was a little bit... Like, he caused a collision, I think, in the sprint race, but it was a very Formula 2 crash, and I can't think of anything to say, really. He was fine. But yeah, and then Formula 3, the leader is Ugo Kachuku after a race win from the feature, but the main part of the weekend that everyone remembers and saw was the sprint, which had to be shortened to 8 laps. So they called it just over 25% of the race had been done. Or sorry, no, just under 50% of the race had been done. So the points were reduced to only places 1 to 5 due to a massive crash between Louis Sharp and James Wharton. That crash is another insanely stupid one. It's been both series have had a very, very dumb crash. But Sharp, Wharton teammates for Prema, who are already struggling money-wise, and get into a collision, fighting over like... I'm pretty sure it was fighting over like 6th and 7th or something like that. It was just a really pointless crash that kind of put a dampener on the rest of the weekend, especially because they had to sit out the main race. But the sprint was won by Bruno Del Pino, but obviously reduced points, so it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Right. Well, with that in mind, obviously, we'll see what happens next time. And obviously, I'll actually have a chance to watch the Formula 2 at least next time. But yeah, last week we kicked off our predictions. So every race of the season, we will, in the episode prior, we'll be giving our predictions for the race. So last week we did our predictions for the Australian Grand Prix. And for those who didn't see that, basically we have 4 categories of predictions for every race. We have the race winner, we have the race binner, we have flop of the tops, and then the wild card prediction. So yeah, we made some predictions last week, and we both got one right.
Indeed.
So yeah.
So if we start with the race winner, so that's just literally whoever won the Grand Prix, and we both said George Russell.
Yes, we were both obviously going off of the hype behind the Mercedes and definitely the evidence that they had as well. And yeah, we each get a point for that one. And obviously, as well, just to mention, we will be counting the points throughout the season as to who gets the most predictions correct. And then at the end of the year, a prize of some variety will be given.
Indeed. Now, on to the second category, being the race binner, which is someone who's just had a bad race. It doesn't have to be the absolute worst person, but someone who's had a bad race. And, like a particularly bad race. And I went for Arvid Lindblad.
Yes.
Because I did not believe that the V-Carb would be very good, and I especially did not believe that around Australia, Lindblad would be able to pull anything off in particular. And I graciously accept my defeat on that one because he had a great weekend.
Yeah, I mean, likewise, I'm in the. If anything, mine's a bit worse. I predicted that Kimi Antonelli would have some sort of nightmare. Like, I mean, obviously, I was very far from the truth there. I just believed that maybe pressure or something would get to him. Obviously, this is only his second season in Formula One, and obviously in these new regulations as well, with the cars being somewhat tricky to handle, reportedly. I thought that he was going to have some sort of nightmare, but I know. And once again, like you say, I will graciously accept that I was far from correct.
Yeah.
But
don't worry, the predictions get worse.
Yeah,
they definitely get worse.
The next category is flop of the tops. Now, this is basically a prediction that we each give based on who we think, which driver from a top team is going to flop, as it's eloquently put. But yes, let's get started with you then.
I went for Max Verstappen, and I was so on the cards for this when he crashed out of qualifying and ended out in 20th. But unfortunately, he did climb up back to 6th from 20th in the race.
Absolutely incredible recovery drive.
Yeah, I definitely don't get that.
No, I mean, I think that's just to sort of booknote that, I think it's one of my favourite statistics now, is that for the first time in a decade, the 22nd driver on the grid is Max Verstappen. But yeah, I didn't fare much better. In fact, once again, I think I fared worse. With I predicted that Lando Norris was going to have some sort of issue or something in this race, and he ran fine. Obviously, like we said, no sort of standouts for McLaren. Obviously, he was the only car running for McLaren, and we'll get to that. Boy, we'll get to that.
Yes.
But yeah, he had a good enough race. No real big story from him. So yeah, I obviously was very much incorrect.
He just kind of got on with it. Held off Verstappen. That was about it. But finally, we've got the wild card prediction, which is basically any kind of general prediction that we want to choose.
Something that's still a little bit out of like left field, though, possibly. Not necessarily, though.
Like, we don't want to just say, "Oh, I think that this person will score a point," and
and equally,
something unnoteworthy.
Equally, on the other end, it's not just I think Pierre Gasly is going to perish. So,
we don't want it to be like so specific.
It's something that's slightly, daring maybe, but not necessarily completely unrealistic.
Yes, and for me, my wildcard prediction was that Piastri will break the Australian curse and win or get a podium at his home race. And what does he do? He spins on the way to the grid.
Yeah.
So that was a no from me.
I didn't fare quite so badly on this one, but I was still quite a way off. I predicted that we'd see a Cadillac in the points, and one Cadillac didn't finish the race, the other finished in 16th, so I was still quite a way off, but, I wasn't miles away either.
Yes, no, and that's us covered our predictions. Currently, it is 1-1.
Yes.
We're both on 1 point each for guessing that the guy in the fastest car would in fact win the race in the fastest car.
And we'll get to our predictions for the Chinese Grand Prix, which is happening next. We'll get onto those at the end, just before we say goodbye. But before then, we have a few things to go over in the world of motorsports generally. So I'm going to start us off here with the NASCAR Cup Series. So we were at Phoenix this race, just gone. And finally, Tyler Reddick hath been vanquished. The 45 car clearly is very strong on the speedways and the road courses, having won the first 3 races of the season thus far, but is somewhat lacking on a shorter track. I mean, Phoenix is still an intermediate track, but it's still shorter. So it'll be interesting to see how Reddick fares at the race in Martinsville at the end of the month on a proper short track. But aside from that, Ryan Blaney was the man who took to victory lane this race. That victory was very much needed. Otherwise, it was going to be a bit of a bad day for the Penske team, considering that its other 2 drivers, Joey Logano and Austin Cindric, both DNF'd. So, that's what Penske really needed. Logano's crash was especially stupid. Just what you were saying a minute ago about the F2 and F3 crashes, it kind of reminded me of that. But Logano basically, he went high, having not cleared the track on the outside, having not cleared the car on the outside of him yet, and clipped it and put himself and 2 other drivers out of contention as well. So, not great from him. But, good for Ryan Blaney, getting some points, getting a win. And we'll see if that championship charge is able to come along after, obviously, Reddick gets quite a head start. But yeah, that's the world of the NASCAR Cup Series for now, at least.
Fair enough. Now, moving over from the race in Phoenix to the race in Phoenix.
Yes.
This time with IndyCar, as they were also doing the first oval of the year. And it was won in pretty late race fashion by Joseph Newgarden. After quite an early crash put Alex Palou in the wall, so that took him out of
Palou and VK took out Alex
VK
Palou.
tried to go through a tiny gap on the inside.
Yeah, he just ended up just pit manoeuvring Palou into the wall.
Yeah.
So that definitely made things more interesting, because it did look like Alex Palou was just going to climb up the order again.
Was going to charge through. However, who did charge through was Christian Rasmussen, who had an absolutely fantastic drive, making it up to the top until Newgarden started slowly climbing, getting closer, and then there was a slight touch to the wall from Rasmussen, and after that he just dropped like a stone. I think from the lead of the race, the guy fell down to 14th in the final 7 laps. But it was a good race on the whole. Good to see David Malukas get his first pole. He's getting used to working in the Penske team now. But
I think the last thing to mention is just a great save from Dennis Hauger. At one point he dropped it, completely spanned the car around, was able to avoid the wall, and kept the car going in a straight line in reverse before being able to get it going the right way again and continue on. So some absolutely phenomenal car control. That was on lap 11, I believe.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, great.
A great showing from him.
Absolutely.
It's looking like he may be quite a promising driver.
I think it won't be long before. I think it won't be long before we see his first win this season. I think.
I'm not sure if I'd say win this season, but I definitely think podium.
I think it's definitely on the cards.
I think at a good road course, I could definitely see a solid podium from him.
Well, I mean, time will tell. But
indeed, we'll have to.
We'll get back to IndyCar in a moment, because there's some more news on that.
Next, we just got a little bit of news, because that's all the actual racing from series. But to start off with, we were talking at the start of the episode about the Middle East conflict. This has led to an actual race being postponed, that being the Qatar 1812 kilometer, the opening round of the World Endurance Championship.
Yes.
And they have currently postponed it to an unknown date due to, obviously, there being strikes on Qatar. And risk of safety for fans, for drivers, stuff like that. It's definitely the right call to make at the moment with that. It was supposedly meant to be the end of the month, I'm pretty sure. So I don't blame them for doing it, and it would be a shame to see it be fully cancelled, but currently they are talking about moving it to the end of the year. Thankfully, there's a lot more time in like World Endurance Championship because there's only like 8 races for the full season.
Yeah.
So they do have that extra bit of time to muck around with. But yeah, that's about all on that. And now back to IndyCar.
The highly debated Freedom 250. So basically a new race is going to be added to the IndyCar calendar this season. And it's part of a special commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States of America. And it's basically a street circuit race that will be taking place in the American capital of Washington, D.C. And before then, one of the biggest criticisms is that we didn't even know what the circuit was going to look like. Now we do. And it is basically just a big square that's slightly misshapen.
It's got 7 corners. It is a kind of off square with like a chunk taken out of it.
Yeah.
It is genuinely like a couple of straights. There's no interesting corner variety. There is like 90-degree corner. So yeah, it's like
it's basically like the first sector of Baku just repeated.
Yeah, it's like 90-degree corners and then like the same kind of corner profile like 3 times. And it's just,
I mean, it's obviously all about the spectacle, and it's about racing in Washington DC, celebrating the birth of America 250 years ago. But it's definitely going to be when I say something to watch, I don't mean that in a positive manner.
It's gonna be something. I will give it that. It
Yes.
is going to be something.
But even then, that's as much as we know for now on that one.
Yes, hopefully they'll give us a bit more information about the race itself. But that's still yet to come.
Yes. Now,
I believe that's everything from the other series.
I was going to say, to close the show now, we have our predictions for next week's race at the Shanghai circuit for the Chinese Grand Prix. So It's the same structure, of course: race winner, race spinner, flop of the tops, and wild card. Let's hear your race winner.
My race winner for the 2026 Shanghai Grand Prix or Chinese Grand Prix, George Russell. I think he is just going to win it again. He got 3rd last year, and like he's got the best car at the mo. I can see him being, I wouldn't say particularly decent, but I don't see him like having much issue with Shanghai as a circuit. What I will say is going to be interesting is the straights at Shanghai and the clipping and battery harvesting and what's going to go on with that. But I think generally Merc will come out on top, and of the two, I'd back Russell for taking the win.
Well,
now let's hear yours.
I've been a contrarian, and I've decided not to go for a safe bet this time. I do think, based on the evidence we've seen, and with a slightly different, proper dedicated racing circuit, I think Charles Leclerc will be the race winner next week. So, yeah, like I say, I'm back in the horse quite literally. But yeah, I think it'll be Charles Leclerc on top. I don't have necessarily a specific reason why. I just think the Ferrari is definitely strong. If any car this early in the season is going to compete with the Mercedes, it's going to be the Ferrari. So, I think in terms of race pace, the Ferrari could be strong with the right strategy call as well. If they can avenge their misdoings in Australia, I think Ferrari can definitely take the top step of the podium.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll just have to see.
Yes. But to move along now, we have the race binner. So, who is going to bin it in Shanghai?
I have gone for Pierre Gasly. I think that 1 point the Alpine got is too much for them to handle, and I just think that he's going to have a poor race. Whether it's like just no performance, or issues with the straights and the battery harvesting on that, or spin out, or I don't know, him and Ocon collide and detonate. I think something's going to go.
A singularity
bad for
occurs
Canada.
when the French come together.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Well, for my race binner, as a sort of antithesis to the Leclerc win, I've put Lewis Hamilton. And I would just like to add, before anyone gets upset at me, I mean, I am a Ferrari fan myself. I have added a side note. I think it'll be based on Ferrari strategy purely. I don't think he's going to have a stupid accident or mistake or, do something silly that's going to lose him positions. I think purely he's going to have a dreadful race because Ferrari will put him on full wet tyres as the sun decides to pull closer to the earth or something. So, yeah, I think something terrible will happen that will be completely out of his hands, but it will result in him being the race binner. So, yes.
Fair enough. No, that's very reasonable. Ferrari do have some questionable strategy.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yes, to continue on, we have Flop of the Tops. Who have you gone with this week?
For my Flop of the Tops, I have gone for Lando Norris. I don't think he's going to have a bad race. Essentially, Flop of the Tops is whoever is worst of the top teams.
Yeah.
And so I just think that he's going to finish the lowest. I just think the McLaren won't have the pace. They'll be struggling with the battery. Again, with Verstappen having a better qualifying, hopefully, and Hadjar's engine not blowing up, or hydraulics not blowing up, then it will be hopefully that they'll be ahead. And I can just see that of the two McLarens, Piastri's a little better around Shanghai. We saw that last year when he won the race.
Yeah.
So I think that Norris will probably just be last of the top teams.
Well, to counter, I have put Kimi Antonelli. Now, I know I put this for race binner in obviously the last race just gone, but I think this time it'll be a proper flop. Purely because I think we might see an early sort of rivalry develop between the two Mercedes drivers. Obviously, George was the far quicker one around Albert Park, obviously being, more than half a second faster in qualifying and then finishing 3 seconds ahead of Kimi. I think Kimi's obviously not the kind of person, he's a racing driver. He's not going to take that sitting down. I think there's going to be some sort of, he's going to try and put the fight to Russell. And then maybe contact or just something will go wrong. Or maybe even the car will just decide to explode. So, yeah, I've put Kimi for a Flop of the Tops. But just to round things out now, we have just one more prediction to go, and that's our wild cards. So, what do you think is going to happen?
For my wild card, I predict that a midfield car, so anyone outside of Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull, one of them is going to finish in the top 5. I think someone's just going to have a bit of mad pace for basically no reason, and they're just going to be able to sit up there. I'm not going to say a name to avoid putting myself through a loophole, but
yeah.
I would say that someone from Haas or VCarb is most likely.
Yeah, at least based on what we've seen from this race, I can see that.
Yeah.
But my wildcard prediction sort of goes back to what you were saying about the McLaren boys. I have suggested that Oscar Piastri is going to come back after that setback in Australia to score a podium. I think, like you say, he's the stronger of the McLaren squad around Shanghai. And I think he'll be able to just about hold on, maybe after getting chased down by a Mercedes or a Ferrari in the late stages of the race. But I think with the right strategy, he'll be able to put himself on the podium, P3 or P2. Obviously, like I say, I don't think he's going to win, but yeah, one of the two podium spots, I believe, will go to the man from down under. So yes, with that, thus closes out our predictions. You'll have to tune in next week after the Chinese Grand Prix to see how we fare on those and see who takes an early lead in our championship season with the predictions. But
now,
yes,
Chinese Grand Prix. While we have got that, we obviously need to have light talk. What are we thinking it's going to be like? We think it's going to be a good track, and we think it's going to be better or worse than Albert Park, or
I think so. I'm a big proponent that generally the the proper dedicated race circuits tend to produce better racing than street circuits. And I think with what we've seen from this current generation of cars, I think we'll probably see a better race in Shanghai. So, yeah, that's my opinion. What's yours?
Oh, my opinion is I think it's going to be a tougher race with the long straights and the issues with battery.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really say whether it's going to be better or worse for racing to watch itself. But I can imagine like some of the long corners, like the first corner and stuff like that, be thoroughly enjoyable to watch. But
well, I mean, time will tell on that. And
yes, I do just want to quickly add,
yeah,
before we close up, news that has just dropped while we've been discussing this. Ferrari are bringing that fully rotating wing, which they've called the Macarena wing, to China. Apparently,
really,
they are debuting it there.
Okay, so that'll be interesting to see.
So it's possible that Ferrari could have a massive change in their pace.
Well, it could be better, it could be worse.
Yeah,
but
indeed.
Like I said a moment ago, before you said, time will tell. But yes, we'd both like to hear your thoughts on what you think the race will be like, and obviously what you've thought of the race in Australia for round 1. Please leave a comment, whether that's on YouTube or Spotify or both, and let us know if you think our predictions for next week are good or shit, and yeah, we'll see who comes ahead there. But for now, that's until next week. So thank you very much if you've gotten this far in the listening. I know it's the trenches, but we're very grateful. Please be sure to subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and indeed Instagram at the Tyre Straights Podcast. But yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Make sure to message any questions or anything.
Yes, indeed.
Especially with the new race coming up, as we will be able to answer it during the episode.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's goodbye from Moron number 1.
And goodbye from Moron number 2.